One of the most thought-provoking yet worrisome quotes direct from EA regarding Anthem is this: Anthem will be a 10-year journey, and it starts on launch day. Anthem was unquestionably one of the largest reveals during 2017. Developed by BioWare, the masterminds behind some of the coolest RPGs in gaming history, Neverwinter Nights, Jade Empire, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and KOTOR, Anthem aims to draw us into its flashy, lush, and almost Avatar-inspired shared world experience come February 22nd. But for reasons about to be discussed, there are surely a lot of gamers out there worried that it will not live up to expectations. I can't understate how important it is for me to clarify that this video is not trying to set up Anthem to fail. I would love to see Anthem succeed long term so that I have another wonderful game on my shelf to sink my teeth into each and every day. This discussion is simply here to raise awareness for Anthem as it stands as a living product of a company called EA, the institution that has been put on blast in the past 2 to 3 years repeatedly for malpractice, lies, deceit, consumer exploitation, cutting content, and questionable game making. Anthem has been in development during all that time, which by association has had the potential to be influenced by said issues. While many people for good reason have faith in BioWare, most probably don't have the confidence in EA to let them develop Anthem without leveraging the platform to suit their own business agendas. The first worry people have about Anthem lies within the construct of its design, the fact that it will be EA's largest foray into the lavish, online, persistent, live video game environment. For the unaware, Anthem is being developed as a living video game, which means it's going to release to the market on day one and receive additional content and updates, often large and transformative, in the days, weeks, months, or in some cases, years thereafter. To be clear, a live video game can be absolutely fantastic at the right price point and with a fair development schedule. Think about Rainbow Six Siege. It's easy to freak out when someone says games as a service, as it's usually looked at as a badge of shame. It's often seen as a money-grabbing way to make a game, as if publishers are trying to pull you in to continue playing the game and possibly giving them more money over time. Sometimes when the game in question actually comes to the market initially underwhelming and lacking content. While this does happen more often than I would like to see, and although it is not guaranteed to go down like this, it's still EA we're talking about here. Many companies have been transitioning away from the one-time transaction model into the continuous recurring revenue waterfall that is games as a service. In theory, it helps keep players playing the game, which is what game makers want, and it could also net the publisher a ludicrous amount of money, such as a live side to Grand Theft Auto Online. This is where temptation becomes a real factor. There's two dangers that have been creeping up recently in the industry, endangering the idea beyond what games as a service can actually do. The number one concern is that having a blueprint for a live game means that it's difficult to tell when a game is actually ready for release, especially in a persistent world. Anthem was announced in July of 2018, which gives EA around 8 months to finish it. As we've seen with various games like Sea of Thieves, Battlefield 5, Street Fighter 5, and The Division, publishers often use the game's release date not as a means of finality, but instead as a soft launch window. In these instances, fans get the bare minimum with the sad justification that the game will be added to over time. Unfortunately, the economics of this design don't make much sense to the end user because gamers have already been charged for that content. Somehow, someway, this trend caught on and became acceptable in the games industry despite the fact that essentially gamers are paying for a fraction of a game, even though they throw down the full list price. Paying for a game that holds content beyond reach for months on end, even though gamers have already paid for it. That doesn't make much sense, and it doesn't sound like the best deal for the end user. As a result, Anthem, like any other live game, has an almost impossible task ahead of itself on the very first day it launches, and that is answering a very simple question. How much content should be in the game at launch, when the platform you've built for it allows for an almost unlimited amount of content? In the not-so-distant past, just look at the launch of the latest Battlefield game, Battlefront 2 or Battlefield 1 for instance, EA has repeatedly shown that they have not figured out the solution to that very basic puzzle, which may not bode well for fans of Anthem wanting a substantial gaming experience when the transaction goes down on day one. The second issue that plagues many persistent online games is that they tend to be incredibly grindy, especially ones that do not include paid DLC content or loot boxes. This, in my eyes, is the primary concern for Anthem. As it's known today, there will be no loot boxes or Season Pass DLC content streamed for Anthem, which is great. But that also means that the only fallback for recurring income for Anthem is an in-game store for cosmetic items, as there will not be 4 money power items in the game. Looking badass in a video game is one of the goals of any gamer. We want to look cool. That's why games have such elaborate and often long-winded progression systems. You want to look cool? Well, then you gotta pay the price. And if you don't want that price to be the money in your wallet, then it's gonna be the time in your day. Grindy video games can be okay for the right person, yet they can also be incredibly boring, time-consuming, and laborious for the rest of us. They can drain on your soul. The worst offenders, and this is absolutely a concern for Anthem, are games that are so big and so grindy that the thought of progressing through the bulk of the game is so tiresome that you'd rather visit the in-game store instead, and that's when they win. It's not uncommon to see these systems inside live games or even normal RPGs like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where you can buy cosmetic items, currencies, and various in-game benefits in the store simply because the game just wears you down. Thankfully in Anthem, it's been reported that there will be no game-altering progression items in the in-game store, but you can bet your bottom dollar there's going to be plenty of options for cosmetics and javelin customization. One of the best things about a game is the challenge versus reward factor, and having an in-game store in the title often jeopardizes the authenticity and progression of that grind. The worst thing to happen would be that EA forces BioWare into tweaking numbers to make the game on the verge of grindy and annoying, just so that some of us put down the controller and say, I'd rather buy something than grind for it. In this regard, we all lose because the game has been made overbearing just for the sake of making some additional cash. This number tweaking has the potential to affect the entire game and the flow of challenge, reward, and payoff in Anthem. Call me crazy, but I don't want the game to be dictated by how much post-launch revenue EA wants to soak up in the in-game store. Progression is a job for the developers, who are able to draw up the natural course of this progression in a fair, honest, and challenging way dictated by what is best for the game itself. One of the concerns mirroring this is that the overall Anthem experience may lack substance. With so much effort going into creating a shared world that focuses on loot gathering, the hope is that the experience has a meaningful story too, and a variety of content outside of just killing stuff. I would hope that Anthem has a lot more going on for it than get a mission, kill some bad dudes, and grab the loot kind of thing that other games like Destiny and Warframe kind of stick to. It's not to say that these games are bad, but hey, it's 2019, so let's try to make a game that's more interesting than that, especially when Anthem has the price tag of $60 slapped to the side of the box. The other problem that has been infesting games lately that has the potential to sink its teeth into Anthem is the introduction of loot boxes or powered DLC after the game comes out. We saw this lately with Black Ops 4, and it could happen again. This increasing trend of releasing a game with the intent to add additional monetization to it later on is not unlikely, given that it seems to be the flavor of the month, as it protects the game against the critique of reviewers against, well, those reviews. Most video game reviews come out before, at launch, or at worst a few days following its release, as outlets want to capitalize on viewership while the environment is nice and hot. Simply waiting a few weeks or months after launch could allow EA, just like it did Activision, the ability to dodge this in its reviews, protect against review bombing, and potentially fly under the radar. Given the financial position of EA today, it may be tempting to use Anthem as a means to tail away additional revenue to recoup past losses and regain stakeholder confidence, but I hope not. Considering that lead producer on Anthem, Michael Gamble, has stated that they will not be adding loot boxes on his Twitter account, here's hoping they stick to it. But because there will be crafting in Anthem, there's always an incentive to sell components for real money as well, to expedite the process for gamers looking to bypass the workload. The reason why this discussion is relevant is because Anthem is a full-price video game, so one would expect that all the content in the game should be attainable in a reasonable amount of time, which is the next point of discussion that worries me. Free games can justify the grind and the excessively large in-game store because that's where they make their money. If you don't want to pay for it, you can play for it. But Anthem is a full-price game, which means that gamers pay for the right to attain everything in the game without spending their entire lives trying to get it. Anthem is a game about gear and getting out into the world with other players and finding it. Some of that gear will be tied to specific javelins, yet much of it is accessible to all classes once you find it. I'm hoping that the top-end content of the game is A, interesting, B, doesn't force me to live inside the game, and C, isn't so time-consuming to be involved in that it wants to make me go buy in-game currency in the case of cosmetics. Because once again, a full-price game should have a fair progression curve that is not dictated solely by a mountainous grind. By the looks of Anthem, another concern lies with gamers who don't want to play socially. While you can play single-player, Anthem is designed to be most fun with a group. Hopefully, solo players will have a good time too. Because when we look at its influencers, Warframe and Destiny, those games were a lot less fun on their own, in my opinion. And this leads me to my last worry with Anthem. Will there actually be a proper story element that this game will have, beyond simple mission selection and dialogue choices? One of my favorite things about BioWare games are the characters in the development of said story, and we've pretty much heard nothing about this for Anthem. And how about the primary conflict of the villain? It seems to be pretty vague right now as well. It makes me think that Anthem might be more about the gear and less about the story, which I'm not sure how I feel about. Anthem will be an interesting game to review once it launches on February 22nd. We know it's going to look amazing and control well. It's got a fantastic art design and the potential to be something truly special. But with the notorious EA at the helm, there's still a lot to fear regarding Anthem. I would encourage everyone out there to not pre-order the game and just simply play the beta once it comes out to formulate your own opinion. And that will be on February 1st. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. Do you think some of the elements in this video are reason to fear Anthem, or do you think it's going to be a pretty good game? Let me know down below in the comment section. Take care, and we'll see you guys in our next video. Peace, love, and happiness until then.